Okay, so tell me, have you ever lay awake at night thinking about selling your house and getting like the absolute best price possible?
Who hasn't, right?
It's a dream.
Yeah.
And we always hear about those hot markets, those sellers markets, but what does that really even mean,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes down to actually selling your house?
That's the million-dollar question. And luckily, you sent over this awesome episode of Real Estate Riches that's got a ton of good advice on exactly that, timing a sale for maximum profit.
It really got me thinking, and one thing that stood out was how much emphasis they put on the overall market cycle. It's so easy to get caught up in our own little worlds, right? Like, oh, I need to sell NW, but
But you got to zoom out, look at the bigger picture
it's
first.
like imagine trying to sell a swimsuit in the dead of winter.
Exactly.
No matter how fantastic your swimsuit is,
Yeah.
no one's buying.
And that's basically what the Real Estate Riches host was saying about figuring out if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market. Remember all those tips they gave for actually figuring that out? Like, what were the inventory levels like?
Oh, yeah. How many other houses are for sale at the same time, competing with you?
Right. Makes sense. The fewer houses for sale, the better your chances of getting top dollar for yours.
Less competition. Right.
Totally. Think about it like if you had some rare vintage treasure and you put it up for auction online, if there were only like two others like it in the whole world.
Oh, the price would be insane.
Exactly. But if there were hundreds of them, suddenly it's not so special.
Okay, yeah. I see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So more houses on the market at the same time equals a much tougher time getting that dream price.
Yeah.
Got it.
But, and this is key, the Real Estate Riches folks made it clear that it's not just about the national picture. Like just because you hear on the news the housing market is booming
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean
That your little corner of the world is booming too.
precisely. Local trends are super important. Remember those data points they mentioned? Like how long houses are actually sitting on the market in your specific area.
And weren't they saying to look at the recent sale prices of similar homes near you too?
Exactly. You could be living in a totally different reality compared to what's happening across the country.
So it's all about doing your research, not just listening to the hype, but actually understanding what's going on right here, right now.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's about being an informed seller, and that's where that Real Estate Riches episode really shines, giving you the tools to actually understand what's going on.
Okay, so we've talked about the whole overall market thing, but what about the time of year? Because I got to say, I always thought spring was like the prime time to sell. I mean, families are moving, everyone's out and about, the weather's nice, it just like made sense. But this Real Estate Riches episode, they really challenged that assumption.
Yeah, it's one of those pieces of classic real estate wisdom, right?
Right.
And it's usually true. Like, there's a reason everyone had spring's best, right? Spring IS, usually a busier time. People are thinking about new beginnings. And yeah, families are often making those moves right when the school year is wrapping up.
So I'm curious, like, where does that conventional wisdom break down then? Because it seems like pretty solid logic, right?
Well, remember you're just talking about how, like, low inventory can really be a seller's best friend.
Yeah, yeah. Fewer houses on the market means more competition for the ones that are for sale and like more chance to drive up that price.
Exactly. And what the Real Estate Riches episode pointed out was that while you might see lower numbers overall during those like fall and winter months, the buyers who are looking then, they tend to be a lot more serious. They're not just out for a Sunday drive. They're ready to make a move.
So it's kind of like dating, but for houses. Like if everyone and their mother is on the apps swiping left and right in the spring, it's harder to like stand out. But come winter, if you're the only one braving the cold, you're way more likely to get that second date.
Haha, I love that. It's all about finding those buyers who are really motivated. And sometimes that slightly less crowded market, it helps.
It's like you're not getting lost in the shuffle.
Exactly.
Okay, so that makes sense. But Real Estate Riches also said that, like, yeah, families with kids, they often don't want to move in the spring and summer because of school schedules and all that. So how do you balance those two things?
Well, it's about understanding who you're trying to sell to, right? And the Real Estate Riches folks, they really hammered that home. If your house is perfect for, say, a growing family, then yeah, maybe that spring timing makes more sense, even with the increased competition. But if you think your place is better suited for, I don't know, maybe young professionals or empty nesters who don't have to worry about school districts.
Then fall or winter could be a really smart move. Okay, so we've got these market trends, we've got seasonal stuff, but there's like another big piece of this puzzle, right? What about your life?
Oh, 100%.
Because Real Estate Riches was very clear. Your personal situation, that comes before anything else.
You're preaching the gospel here. That's where it shifts from just like market analysis to actual personal strategy. Remember those questions they asked? Like, why are you selling in the first place? And it's now really the right time to do it in your life. Those are big ones.
Yeah, and they talked a lot about financial readiness, too.
Yeah.
And pretend I'm the listener for a second. What does that even mean? Besides just having, like, some money saved up.
Oh, it's huge. And honestly, I think it's the thing people overlook the most. Real Estate Riches was right to spend so much time on it because it's not just about like, do you have enough for your closing costs? It's, do you have enough equity built up in your current place to make this move worthwhile? And like, what's your debt to income ratio going to look like if you take on a new mortgage? These are questions you want to be asking yourself no matter when you sell.
It's like everyone always says, personal finance is a lot more personal than it is finance.
100%. And this is one of those times when having a financial planner in your corner, it can be like the best investment.
Get that second opinion, right?
Exactly, because they can look at your situation objectively and help you make sure you're not just like chasing a hot market,
Yeah.
that you're making a sound financial decision for your future.
Yeah, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we've talked about us, our own readiness, but what about the world around us? How does the overall economy factor into all of this timing the sale stuff? Because I got to say, that always feels kind of big and scary.
Oh, totally. It's easy to get overwhelmed thinking about all of that. But Real Estate Riches actually gave us a great place to start. Interest rates. Remember how they were saying that generally low interest rates tend to mean more potential buyers?
Because it's cheaper to borrow money, which means more people qualify for mortgages and all that.
Bingo. So it's like this whole domino effect, right? Low interest rates often mean more buyers, which leads to higher demand, which can mean a potential price bump for you, the seller. But when those rates start to climb, it can price some buyers out, right?
Makes it harder to sell. So it really eyes like this big game of musical chairs, the economy. And you just got to make sure you've got a seat when that music stops.
That's such a good analogy because it's not even necessarily about being the fastest. It's about being like strategic, paying attention to what's going on around you.
Okay, so we're watching those interest rates.
Yeah.
But what else should we be paying attention to? It's not like we can all become economists overnight.
You don't have to. The beauty of the Real Estate Riches advice was like, they told us exactly what to focus on. They're said to just focus on the indicators that actually like directly impact the housing market. So things like employment numbers in your specific area, wage growth, even just like general consumer confidence. Are people feeling good about the economy?
So it's like the economy is this giant mood ring,
Yeah.
and we just got to learn to read the colors. And speaking of reading the situation, let's talk about actually getting your house ready to sell. Because Real Estate Riches, they had a lot to say about that. They really opened my eyes to how much work goes into it. Like, it's not just about sticking a sign in the yard.
Not even close. And that's something Real Estate Riches really drove home for me, too. It's like, it's easy to think, oh, it's a seller's market. Buyers will just take what they can get. But
they've got options.
They do, even when it's competitive. So you still got to make your house stand out. And that's where all that prep work comes in.
And they talked a lot about repairs. But it wasn't just like fix every little thing. It was a lot more strategic than that.
Right. It's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about those, like, smart upgrades. Remember that example they gave about the roof?
Oh, yeah. Like, a new roof can make all the difference.
Even though it's not, like, the most exciting thing.
Not very glamorous.
But it sends a huge message to buyers that, like, hey, you can move right in here. You don't have to worry about some big, expensive headache down the road.
It's about peace of mind.
Exactly.
Okay, but then on the flip side, I remember them saying that, like, those, I don't know, quirky things that make your house unique, those aren't always a good thing.
It's true. Your avocado green bathroom from the 70s might hold a special place in your heart, but to a buyer.
It probably just means demolition day.
Exactly. They see dollar signs, and not in a good way. Again, it goes back to understanding what buyers want in your market right now.
So, repairs, check. What about staging? Because I'll be honest, that one's always kind of mystified me a little bit. Like, how much of a difference can moving some furniture around really make?
Oh, it's huge. And Real Estate Riches, they had some really good points about the, like, psychology behind it.
Oh, interesting.
It's really about tapping into those emotions, Remember they were talking about little details like having fresh flowers out or putting a bowl of fruit on the counter?
Oh, yeah, those little touches.
It makes the space feel welcoming, lived in, but not too personal.
So you want it to feel like a home, but also like a blank canvas that they can picture themselves in.
Exactly. And, like, Using neutral colors on the walls, that really helps buyers imagine their own stuff in the space. It's all about like subtly nudging them towards that this could be mine feeling.
It's like you're staging their dreams. Literally.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got staging, but we can't forget curb appeal. That first impression, I remember Real Estate Riches was really big on that too.
Oh, for sure. That first look as they're pulling up to the house, it can make or break the deal.
Totally.
Simple things. A mowed lawn, some flowers by the front door, even just a nice, bright welcome mat. They make a difference. It shows you care, and that makes them see a well-maintained home.
It's true. It's like putting your best foot forward, but for your house. Okay, so we've covered market timing, we've talked about your own personal situation, the economy, and even how to make your house look amazing. That is a LOT to consider. So I guess the big question is, should you run out and sell your house right now?
If only there was an easy answer. But unfortunately, we don't have a crystal ball. What we do have now, after this deep dive into real estate riches, is a much better sense of how to make that decision. We've learned how to analyze the market. We've talked about understanding your own personal motivations and any challenges you might be facing. And we even dug into how to actually present your property in the best way possible. So
It's like we've been given this incredible toolbox. Now it's just up to each of us to use it.
exactly. And remember, sometimes, maybe all the stars are aligned, the market's perfect, the numbers make sense, but
It still doesn't feel quite right.
exactly.
That's such an important reminder. And it actually reminds me of something they said on Real Estate Riches about how sometimes life throws you these curveballs, maybe you get an incredible job offer across the country, or you need to relocate to be closer to family. And suddenly, the market timing, it kind of fades into the background because you've just got to make a move.
100%. At the end of the day, it's about finding that balance between what makes sense on paper and what feels right in your gut. It's your journey, your house, your life.
So well said. And there you have it, folks, our deep dive into the ins and outs of timing those real estate moves, all inspired by that fantastic Real Estate Riches episode you sent over. We hope this has given you some things to think about, some tools to use, and maybe, most importantly, the confidence to navigate that crazy real estate market.
Happy selling, everyone.
And we'll see you next time for another deep dive.